Hey, I'm Jeff and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how I water my plants on planks. I do get a few questions related to watering itself, as well as if I keep the plank wet at all times. So I'm hoping to address some of those comments and concerns in this video. Plus I'm also going to show you how I fertilize these plants on planks. So let's get into it. I'm going to start off by showing you what I use to water my plants on planks. This is a 1-gallon garden sprayer. The brand is Chapin, C-H-A-P-I-N. I do get quite a few questions asking which brand that I use. This is absolutely key to properly watering your plants on planks because you have to spray down the plank, and I let the water kind of drip down into the pot. If you use something like a small misting bottle or even just a watering can, it's going to be really difficult to properly water the plank and the pot, which I'll demonstrate here in a couple minutes. So the next question I'm going to cover is, do you need to keep the plank wet at all times for these aerial roots to latch on? I don't. The only time I wet the plank is when the plant or when the soil needs to be watered. So right now it's absolutely bone dry. The plank, it's dry as well. You can spray off the plank every day or every few days, but you just have to remember that the water will drain off of the plank into the soil. So you don't want to have consistently wet soil for a plant like the Cebu Blue or any pothos or anything like that. So just be cautious about your soil moisture levels. Now, when the plant is very young and it's just starting off on the plank, I would probably recommend spraying off the plank, just a light misting every couple days so it can train those aerial roots to latch onto. Not every plant on plank I've had has latched onto. Some of them are a little bit more difficult to get to latch on, and I just use this little packing tape. You can use plant wire or that plant Velcro tape as well, and over time it will kind of teach itself or train itself to latch onto the wood. So today is fertilizer day as well, and I'm going to try and keep this as simple as I can. This is the fertilizer that I use for most of my houseplants. It is the Foliage Pro Dynagrow. The nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium is 936. Make sure you always follow the directions on the back of the container. You don't want to be giving too much fertilizer. Today I'm going to be using the maintenance dose, and it says mix a 1/4 teaspoon of Foliage Pro per gallon of water. So here's my gallon of water. 1/4 teaspoon is equal to about 1 ml. So I've measured it out with a little syringe. I have it in the little cap here, and I'm going to add it in the container here in a second. When I water my plants on planks and when I'm using fertilizer in the spray bottle, I will also be doing a foliar spray. So you fertilize the leaves as well as the soil. So the foliar spray application is pretty much the same. So it says use a 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon per gallon of water. I'm using this concentration because I'll be spraying off the leaves, letting that drain into the soil, and it'll also get some nutrients on the plank. Like, that is a very small amount of fertilizer, which is actually quite surprising. Just gonna put the top on and mix it up. Now, one thing I've been doing in the last few days, I guess, is I am measuring the pH in my water as well. I did make a video on that, and I use this little product right here, Root Farm pH water testing. Most tropical houseplants need a pH of something slightly acidic, somewhere around 6 to 7 on the pH. 7 is neutral, 6 is a little acidic. I've been testing the water that I'm using because if you just use it straight out of a tap, whether it's filter tap water or just straight tap water, the pH is around 8, and that is way too alkaline for houseplants. So it comes with a little testing container like this. You put your sample of water in, fill it up half, and then you add a couple drops of the solution. Then you reference the color of the solution with the container here, and it'll tell you which pH or what your pH is at. Now I'm going to add a little bit of water to the container, and then I'm going to add the solution, 3 drops. You can see the solution is a little bit kind of that greenish yellow, and that lines up nicely with a pH of 6.5. The reason why you want the pH in this range is that is what houseplants use to uptake nutrients. So if you have something that is too alkaline or too acidic, it's not going to be able to absorb the fertilizer or the nutrients that you gave it. So that's why pH is actually really important for your houseplants. I also have a soil testing kit, which I've never done yet, but I'll be doing that in the future. But This is another good thing to keep an eye on. Rain and melted snow actually have a natural pH of roughly 6.5. I did a little experiment on that as well. Okay, so let's get watering the plants. Here is my current setup, and I constructed this little portable plant shower. It's just a Tupperware bin, and I constructed these kind of outer walls which would replicate a shower. This is just cheap foam board. I am going to be upgrading this down the road. It gets a little bit of moisture absorption on the wall, so this is not ideal. It was just something that was quick and easy. So I want to make like plastic or PVC walls or something like that where I can just clean them off and they don't get these kind of water stains. So this just makes it really easy because I have a number of planks and plants that instead of taking them back and forth to my actual shower in the bathroom, I can stay in one spot here and clean off all of my plants because I have a lot. So now for watering, obviously you can see the plant is much taller than the wall, so I'm just gonna have to be careful, but I like to just place the wand kind of right on the plank and just follow the plank all the way down. Just making sure that the plank is thoroughly coated with water, and this is obviously the water and fertilizer mixture, so the nutrients will be on the plank here as well. Those aerial roots will not only absorb the water, but it'll also get nutrients as well. Today I am watering with fertilizer, and like I said, I'll be doing the foliar and soil fertilization. So obviously you just wet the plank, the water and fertilizer runs down into the soil. Now for foliar spray, this is just adding or applying fertilizer to the surface of the leaf. The leaf will absorb the fertilizer and use it as energy with sunlight and water to produce sugars for growth. I have read online that it is quicker, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's quicker for the plant to absorb nutrients through the leaves than it is through the soil and roots. So I'm gonna get a little bit of overspray here, but I'm gonna spray off the leaves just like that. I like to spray the leaves not only to clean them off, but this is also a good pest deterrent. Spraying off your leaves will prevent or hopefully minimize spider mites and stuff like that. So I like to use a good pressure sprayer like the one that I'm using and spray them off. So again, I'm just spraying off the leaves, spraying off the plank, just like that. You can see all the water from the plank and the leaves just drain into the pot. So I will water until water comes out the bottom of the container. This is my Syngonium frosted heart, and the two plants that I would recommend for planks or that do really well on planks are Syngonium and pothos plants. They have really kind of thick, beefy roots. And you can see down there the nice big aerial roots. And I do the same thing with this one as well. Just spray off the leaves, making sure that the plank gets watered. Just give it a good soaking, let that drain into the pot. You can see there's water pooling in the soil, let that drain through. There's a little bit of yellowing on this leaf. I don't know if that's an old leaf dying off or if that's a pest issue. So that's why I like to spray these leaves off as well. If there's any pests on these things, then I just like to blast them off, and then I'll change the water after this one. So I don't want there to be any transfer of pests to the next pot. So give this a good soaking, again spraying the plank, letting that drain through. This is a small little Epiprenum pinnatum yellow flame, and you can see they're just obviously two small little cuttings in here, and I planted them as close to the plank as I could. This one is butted up right against it, so when you are starting off with a cutting on a plank, this is probably the best way to do it, and I'll show you an example of a Marble Queen pothos, which I did the same. It didn't require like any tape or any Velcro or anything like that, so I'll wet the plank and I'll wet the soil as well, and hopefully in a few months this plant will train itself without any intervention to latch onto the plank and climb up. So this is how I set up my initial cuttings, as basically as small as you can. I think that's the key to getting them to latch on by themselves, because if you put a mature cutting on here, you can see that the aerial roots are typically larger, and then sometimes when they are very hard and kind of crusted over, it can be a little bit more difficult for those aerial roots to soften up if the wood is constantly dry. So you might have to keep those drier aerial roots a little bit more on the moist side, where I think the new cuttings like this, they will have softer aerial roots. Even though there's no visible aerial roots touching the board right now, there might be some roots underneath the soil, like this little cutting here, which might be latching onto the board. So I just like to spray off, the top few inches like this. Right now, a lot of the growth is obviously happening below the soil. It'll be setting up a strong root system to sustain future growth. Here is the Marble Queen where I've never used any tape or any Velcro, and it's trained itself right from the start to latch onto the plank. This one I did have upstairs. I recently brought it downstairs to grow underneath these Soltech grow lights, which all my plants on planks have been doing really well. So I'm gonna give this one some water as it's absolutely bone dry and the leaves are actually starting to get a little bit droopy. You have to be careful when they're not attached using tape or Velcro. They can actually come off quite easy when there are small cuttings like this. So just be careful not to knock it or bump it. But if you do, just add a little piece of that Velcro tape or plant wire, whatever it is that you use, and it should latch on again. Another thing I like to do is turn the plant around, spray the back of the leaves. Again, that's where most pests will hang out. It's on the back side, so give those a good spray, and then wet the back of the plank. It's just added moisture so it doesn't dry out as fast. One question or comment that I see frequently in the comment section is, why do I place wood directly inside the pot? It's just gonna rot. These are two smaller pine planks. These are actually bed frame slats from one of my kids' beds. So I like to use whatever wood I can find and reuse or repurpose. These ones over here are cedar planks. They are from my kids' playhouse, which was pretty rough looking, so we actually dismantled it last year, and I was able to salvage some of these cedar planks. So I like to use whatever I can repurpose. I just wanted to show these quick because these were in a pot for about a year, and there's no rot. Like it's hard, maybe a little bit of staining, but there is no rot. So for those worried about rot, I would recommend using cedar, as that's a little bit more rot resistant. Compared to pine, it's quite a soft wood, but you can see there's no rot here. Everything is intact. I would definitely use these again. If you're concerned about rotting in the long term, then you can use a product like this. This is a cedar plank from TreLeaf, but they use a rubber coating on the bottom. So you can do the same with this. Just add like a Flex Seal or something like that to the lower portion of the plank that's going to be in soil if you're really concerned about rotting. Here is a beautiful Epiprinum pinnatum. This is the regular green form. I decided to try a few of my plants on the moss pole, and I'm going to say right now, I hate these round cylindrical moss pole styles. They are very, very messy. I do prefer, and I absolutely love, these D-shape honeycomb type moss poles. It contains the roots and it also contains the mess, and I'll show you here in a minute if it actually does it or not. But I know a lot of people like to water their moss poles from the top down. They'll put a bottle in. I find it gets quite messy, so if you don't have a large area or like a large saucer to collect that water, then it's going to be quite messy. Plus, when I spray off these moss poles with my spray bottle, then these little moss fibers, I find that on the floor, yeah, just super messy. Whereas if I use this is genius. It contains all that mess. It contains the moisture in there, and I don't think they dry out as fast as these ones here. I like having this portable plant shower for these moss poles as well, and I like to start at the top and just kind of wet the moss. I'll place it right in one of these holes, and then I'll spray it. You can even do it from the top, but I find it just takes too long. But I like to spray off the pole, again, letting it drip down into the soil. But I will mainly just wet the moss like this, and hopefully the aerial roots in time will grow into the moss. I want to make sure I spray off the leaves, give them a good foliar fertilizer. And this is how I water my moss poles. Mine dry out in like a day. This will be absolutely bone dry by tomorrow morning. See, you can see all the little moss flakes falling off when I give it water. They're just super dry. So I'm just gonna give that a little bit more of a soak. Might be a little bit tough to see here, but these two little nubs, they are aerial roots, and those ones are a little bit on the drier side. So this might have a lesser chance to adhere to the moss or a plank. Now, if we come up to something like this one right here, you can see it is a little bit lighter, a little bit of white. So this would be kind of your ideal one to have in contact with a plank or even on the moss. I might have to add a little support there because it is definitely searching out for some moisture, and you can see it's just not dried up and crusty looking like the other one there. And same with this root right there. You can see it's already reaching out or searching out for moisture. That is the type of aerial root that you want to see when you put it on a plank or a moss pole. This one is active and it's searching out for something to latch onto and probably obtaining moisture and nutrients as well. Here's a perfect example. This is my Epipernum pinnatum Baltic Blue. I did chop the top off this one as it was getting quite leggy, so I just wanted to cut it back. And right here, you can see that very soft white aerial root is already latched onto the plank. So I'm just gonna push it here. It is fully attached to the plank. See if I can get in a bit closer. You can see the very white aerial root. So that is why I think that if you plant or pot up like a new smaller cutting, then you're probably gonna have better success with the aerial root latching onto. So that is a perfect example right there of what you wanna look for when it attaches to the plank, is those white, younger aerial roots. Okay, I'm setting up for the next shot. And like I've done 50 times before, is I've knocked over this grow light, it fell, and it chipped my pot. Oh, brutal. Oh well, that's what happens, I guess. I'm just gonna water this one quickly, and then I'm going to grab my marble queen pothos, my favorite plant on plank. Okay, here's the big mama. This is my favorite plants on planks, and look how large this last leaf is. It's the size of my hand, and it's already getting a new one. This one is absolutely gorgeous. I repotted it, and this one has some really, I'm just gonna move the lighting closer. This one has some really thick aerial roots. See if I can get in there. Look at these things. And they have like little feet, like little caterpillar feet, and they latch onto. I love these aerial roots. They are so cool. Look at the newest leaf. Wow, that's gorgeous. Okay, now I'm going to spray it off. Same thing. Use my spray bottle. Making sure to coat all the leaves. Give the plank a good watering as well. You can see it's running down into the soil. And then I'm gonna turn it around and do the same for the, look at these roots, crazy. Just gonna do the same for the back sides of the leaves. And same with the plank. So I think that's gonna be pretty much it for this video. I hope I answered all your questions. If you have any other comments or questions, please leave it down below in the comment section. Thanks again for watching my videos. I appreciate all the support. Take care, bye.